Hi, this is Rosalyn Kahn with Dylan Kelley. We are here to talk about this upcoming new movie called Bloodline. This gentleman is absolutely amazing, superb, and you're not going to believe the story you heard, based partly on a true time story. Dylan, take it away for us. Tell us who you are a little bit. Our audience doesn't know you, so tell us.
Well, I'm an actor, scriptwriter, stuntman, and I sing. And, well, pretty much it.
Fantastic. What was the biggest film that you've been in? Who's some of the stars and celebrities you've worked with?
The biggest film I was in was a television show called Blue Bloods. I worked with Tom Selleck.
Great.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. That's when I really realized, this is what I want to do. But my most fun film I ever did was a Messiah's COINTELPRO.
Wow.
Because there was a stunt scene where we were fighting, and that was in the wilderness, and that was a lot of fun too.
Great.
And I had a lead role in that.
Fantastic. Now, how long have you been working on this film here, the Bloodline?
We've been working on this film for a couple months now.
Fantastic. And what was the inspiration that brought you to deciding to make this film?
My mother. She when I was about 10 years old, she told me there was a psychopathic serial killer in my original family. I was adopted, so in my original lineage, there was a serial killer in the family who killed off my entire family. She told me this when I was 10, like a normal mother would.
Right.
That's a joke. So I said, you know what? Let's turn it into a movie. Let's turn her story into a film. And that's what we did.
Okay, can you tell us a little bit about the film without giving the whole story away?
Sure. Distraught by his grandmother's losing battle with cancer, struggling actor Jeremy Logan hears rumors of an experimental cure that leads him to breaking into his boyfriend's pharmaceutical company. After a successful theft and seeing his grandmother cured, Jeremy lets his ego get the better of him and takes on the persona of Jesus and begins posting videos of him curing people online. After he draws the attention of the pharmaceutical companies, they hire a hitman to retrieve their property and take out Jeremy. In a twisted sense of fate, the hitman turns out to be Caroline, Jeremy's estranged sister who murdered their family years ago. After his friends start being picked off, Jeremy is forced to deal with the shadows from his past and confront his long-lost sister.
Oh my God, that sounds frightening. Now, I think this is the first time we've seen a woman in a lead role in this such position as the assassin, right? Is that correct?
She's the Freddy Krueger, Michael Myers. Yes, this is the first female antagonist in a film, yes, I think. I haven't seen any others. There was I Spit on Your Grave, that whole series, but that was a woman who was abused, who was taking revenge out on the men. This is just a woman who's a complete lunatic psychopath who just is out for blood and gore.
And so this all somewhat really happened in your family?
Allegedly.
Allegedly. Wow. Now, as a 10-year-old, when you go back and hearing the story, what was the first instinct that went through your mind?
I was scared. I was scared. I was always frightened that someone would come after me. So, I don't get along with my mother.
Oh, okay. Okay. You don't get along with your mother.
No.
And tell me a little bit about your work in the film industry. How long have you been in the film industry? When did you decide to make the break and that story?
I've been in the film industry for about 7 years. I was walking to work one day back when I was living in New Jersey, and I worked at a mall. And I ran into a friend of mine who I had gone to middle school with named Bo Pierce. And we just started talking, and I said, "What's up? What are you doing? How's life?" Whatever. He said, "I'm acting." I said, "You're acting? I always wanted to do that." He goes, "Well, you should." He handed me a card, and it was for Central Casting, which is where everybody starts out as background actors and extras and all that. So I went to 5 Penn Plaza in Manhattan and signed up and became a background actor. And that's how I started out.
Wow. How long were you doing the background acting before you got some of the bigger roles?
A year and a half.
That's a pretty short top to the top.
Short time, yeah. It was very short, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So you must have had some innate talent in you. Did you ever dream of being an actor as a young kid?
Since I could put two thoughts together, I knew I was going to be an actor. I didn't know how I was going to get there, but I knew I was going to get there somehow.
Wow.
I feel like that's my purpose for, people, human beings, when they're alive, they say, what do you want to do when you grow up? And some people don't want to help people. Some people want to be left alone and have their own company or whatever. And other people want to help people, such as nurses, doctors, lawyers, firemen, policemen. Well, policemen we can, but you know what I mean. And so I wanted to do that. I knew I wanted to help people, but it wasn't through the medical field. I thought art is the way to do it. And I knew, like I said, since I could put two thoughts together, I knew I was going to be an actor and help people through my struggles that way. So I've known forever. That's why I'm alive, I believe, is to do this and make this come true.
Wow, well, that's really amazing that you had this inspiration since you were a very young child and you met this person just a happenstance. And they say life never goes ahead and happens for the strangest reasons of all, but there's always a purpose and intent behind you. Hi, this is Rosalyn Kahn with the Rosalyn Kahn Show, and I'm so excited to have this U.S. Senate candidate, Denice Gary-Pandol, with us today. And I am so excited. My roommate said I met this amazing lady, and she has so many things that she's passionate about. Now, you tell me you're in Bakersfield, and we got...
I'm in the city of Bakersfield, right.
And Bakersfield is known for what?
So Bakersfield is known for agriculture, and it's known for oil. It's known for energy. So here in California, some of your listening audience may know that the state of California provides over 400 commodities, not only to the people of this country, but to the world. So we provide here in our state, and much of it is grown right here in the Central Valley. We grow over a third of all the vegetables that are consumed, not only here in our state, but in our nation and around the globe. We also provide over 2/3 of all the fruit and the nuts, again, eaten here in the state of California and across the country and worldwide. So we provide a lot of food, and it's terrible because one of my first position papers on my website, which I hope people take a look at, Denice, D-E-N-I-C-E, Gary, G-A-R-Y, Pandol, P as in Papa, A-N-D-O-L, Denice is with a C, DeniceGaryPandol.com. I hope they'll take a look at it because the Democrats have been turning off the water to our farmers. And so what's happening to those maybe in your listening audience, which I understand is principally in the LA area. Is that correct?
Right.
So water probably doesn't feel like a sexy subject to people in your area, but if they like to eat, it's pretty important because farmers are having to plow under their crops. Ranchers have had to literally slaughter some of their cattle because the Democrats, and Dianne Feinstein is the seat that I'm running for, the Democrats in Washington, D.C., that have sat on the subcommittee for water and power have made it very difficult for farmers to have enough water. So there are food shortages going on in the world right now. The United Kingdom, for example, is actually rationing vegetables to its population. Not all vegetables, but certain vegetables are being rationed in the United Kingdom. Other countries are literally undergoing a starvation crisis. They're not being able to import the number of food that they have been able to import in the past. The United States could solve that problem if it did a little thing called water storage. And so one of the things, for example, that people don't understand is here in California, we have what's called a snowpack on the Sierra Nevada mountains.
Right.
All of that melts in the spring and it all flows into the ocean.
Mm-hmm.
As your United States Senator, legislation that I would like to propose that I believe I won't have a problem selling to everybody else in the legislature, particularly the Republicans, is we need to store at least 5% of the Sierra Nevada snowcap in, for example, rainwater capture systems, reservoirs, off-stream reservoirs, underground. We've got to have underground reservoirs so they can collect the rainwater and collect the water that's melting. And that can then be used for farmers and ranchers to grow food. And at a time when the world and the United States is experiencing food shortages. And I want to say, I understand that President Biden just announced this last week that, we're giving money. The Democrats are going to make sure finally that California has over $300 million to have some more storage. They've been telling us that for decades. The Sites Reservoir, which could take care of hundreds of thousands of people in our state, was supposed to have been built already because the voters in California voted for Prop 1. Let me tell you something, Rosalyn.
Right.
You and I, the people of this state, have voted for 10 water bond issues in the last 25 years.
Wow.
And we don't have any more water storage to show for it. That means that the people where you live are paying higher taxes. I pay higher taxes. Everybody in our state is paying higher taxes when we get our water bill, but we don't have more storage. So we have food shortages. Again, farmers are plowing under their crops. And I was at the World Ag Show just a few months ago, and I was shocked that when I went to one of the booths, it was a cannabis booth, and the people there I walked up to them and I said, "So you have a cannabis booth here at the World Ag Show. How are you promoting this?" And they said, "Well, it takes less water to grow cannabis." But I said, it's dangerous. It's dangerous to people and to their security. It's difficult for children. So much child abuse occurs in the home because parents are just on another plane and they're not making sure their kids are fed and their kids are taken care of. You can't have parents that are able to get cannabis and are high on marijuana, which leads to other drug usage.
Right, of course.
It's a problem in our state. But more importantly, you don't want to plow under food crops to grow a drug that's going to lead to increased crime in our state.
No, that is just horrible. We're going to have to take a quick break right now to go to our commercial sponsors, and then we'll go ahead and come back. Just a quick second here. Hi, this is Rosalyn Kahn. We are here with the candidate Denice Gary-Pandol, who is to replace Dianne Feinstein. And we've been talking about how she lives in Bakersfield, which is the #1 farming industry in the world, feeding most of the world, and what's happening with people having to plow over their farms, and we don't have enough storage place. But she also said that she's part of the king of the energy, and we hear so much news in our energy world and the skyrocketing energy prices. So what can you tell us about that?
Well, I'm sorry, Rosalyn, I need to go back and correct something. So
sure.
It's not just Bakersfield, it's the Central Valley.
Right, of course.
as a state, we provide and help feed not only the American people, but the world. And that's the important thing in light of food shortages. On to energy. You were asking about energy. So the important thing to understand is that the fossil fuel industry here in California and in the United States of America is among the cleanest in the world. Mm-hmm. So we found ways to produce oil and gas and coal so cleanly, it doesn't compare to the kinds of oil and gas that we're importing from around the world. So I'd like your audience to picture some of those dirty oil tankers that come from Saudi Arabia or Iraq or Ecuador, possibly Venezuela. Biden has talked to Iran, which would, of course, if Iran starts fueling the United States with oil, what does that mean? That means Iran has more money to terrorize not only the state of Israel, but the American people. Many American people have died as a result of Islamic terrorism that is bought and paid for by Iran. But Israel's national security is at great stake, particularly under the Biden administration that continues to fuel Iran. And of course, if I may say so, the war of attrition that's been going on by the Muslims against the Jewish state has, I'm sure your audience perhaps is aware of the fact that there's been a tremendous increase in the number of terrorist attacks on Israeli citizens of late. And that's we can blame the Democrats for that, because Biden and his administration have actually violated federal law and have started to fund the Palestine Liberation Organization. And the Palestine Liberation Organization is a terror organization that has killed Americans and has killed Israelis, including, the beheading of men, women, and children. This is a problem in Israel. Under the Trump administration, funding was cut off to the Palestinian Authority or the Palestine Liberation Organization. Biden reinstated it. And you notice that with the soft on crime policies of the Democrats here in California and nationwide, but also the Biden administration, it's impacting one of our most important strategic allies in the Middle East is Israel. And I say that because of the amount of intelligence information they provide. And I've had top secret clearances, and I've worked for a think tank. I worked for a multinational. We had access to, information, and the Israelis are help to the United States militarily. Wow. And also particularly in regards to rescue operations, when if our guys or gals are captured and held by a terrorist entity.
And welcome to the Oakland Aviation Museum. This is a special museum for aircraft, historic GA, general aviation, and World War II airplanes here at the Oakland Airport. As you can see, it's now open 7 days a week for the summer. And I wanted to show you around. This is an indoor and outdoor museum. This is the outdoor area. Over there, we have a flying boat. There's not too many of those left. Here you can see the Douglas KA-3B Sky Warrior. Really cool. Lots of red and blue. You can read up on it. Star had their first flight in this plane. Now we use more Cessnas. Come over here. This is just a great place to come and visit, to bring your family. As you can see, the ground is like a little runway. The Kitty Hawk corporate. And of course, that's the Wright brothers. That's the Wright, and this is the gift shop where you can get all of your favorite aviation goods. Thank you, and we hope to see you soon.
Getting back to fossil fuels, I'd like your audience to picture a dirty oil tanker that dirties up the ocean and dirties up the air. I mean, we're all concerned about the environment. As a Republican, I care about the environment. And I don't want some dirty oil tanker coming from Saudi Arabia, a country that could cut off oil supplies just like that. All it would take, the oil that comes through the Strait of Hormuz could be closed down by Iran today. And all the oil that we're getting would be immediately ended. And think about this. Your audience needs to think about this. The United States military runs on fossil fuels. 80% of the military is driven on fossil fuels. So if we're not energy independent, if we're not producing some of the cleanest oil and natural gas in the world today, what does that do to our national security?
Right.
I mean, it's bad for the environment. It's bad for the economy. It certainly is bad for humanity. Think about this. Fossil fuels is used for synthetic fertilizer. Synthetic fertilizer has helped stave off starvation because it's used around the globe to help fertilize food.
Right.
And a lot of places aren't getting that synthetic fertilizer anymore because countries are going to what China has promoted, which is this green energy agenda. China's not following the green energy agenda, but they're telling everybody else to. In the meantime, people aren't getting fossil fuels. So what does that mean? That means that those synthetic fertilizers, which is really a humanitarian issue because it fertilizes food that also helps feed the world. If you can't get it,
right,
you can't stave off starvation. But let me say one other thing about the environmental issues, because I want all your good listeners to think about this when they talk to these environmentalists and Democrats. So the fossil fuel industry is not only the cleanest and most regulated in the world, right here in California, but think about the fact that these companies have found a little thing called carbon capture, utilization, and sequestration. It's called CCUS. So carbon capture can capture the greenhouse gases, the CO2 emissions coming off of an oil rig or an oil refinery. So when this is captured, it can be processed and then sold to a third world country to help them, because fossil fuels is the only thing that's reliable, that's dependable for a country's electric grid. Only fossil fuels can ramp up and ramp down an electric grid. So, for example, when Russia destroyed the electric grids in Romania, we all heard during the wintertime, no heat, because there was no electricity. You know, the lights were out. People died in hospitals that were hooked up, you know, because, you know, people depend on electricity in hospitals and their homes. So there's your refrigerators go dead in hospital units. The things that are needed to keep a patient alive are dead. You know, there's a lot of death and destruction when an electric grid goes out. Well, guess what? You can't depend on the wind, especially in the middle of winter. You can't depend on the sun, and you can't depend on water. It's absolutely the most ridiculous, illogical, stupid thinking to think that an electric grid is going to depend on wind farm, hydropower, and solar panels. There's no amount of wind farms for a population as big as the United States, 330 million people. There's not enough wind farms, there's not enough hydropower, there's not enough solar panels to provide the kind of necessary energy to run this population. Not only that, you can't depend on it. So in terms of a humanitarian perspective, fossil fuels is incredibly important. So let's talk about the economy. You want to end inflation as your United States Senator.
Right.
The best way to do that is to make supply abundant. You know, when the supply shrinks, the demand goes up, and so does inflation. Inflation grows as the demand goes up, and the supply is limited. So what you do is you end this destruction of the fossil fuel industry so that we can get back to prospering as a nation. That's going to bring down the price immediately, and the poor working people of California and the country are going to be able to get to work again.
Right.
Because they'll be able to put gas in their tank. And, you know, I don't know about you, but I'm depending on gas to travel up and down this state. and it's $5 in my neighborhood.
Right.
Fill up my tank. We've got to lower the cost of fossil fuels. We have the cleanest in the world. We can help saving the environment. It's necessary for national security. It's necessary to prosper our economy. And I'll tell you one more thing real quick on the national security level. China has found billions of untapped petroleum in the South China Sea, which they won't allow anybody else to touch, not the Philippines, nobody. Like they've taken over, they've taken control unlawfully, illegally of the South China Sea. So they found all of these fossil fuels, trillions of cubic feet of natural gas, billions of, not millions, billions of untapped barrels of oil. So they're going to have everything they need for the next world war. We're depending on Ecuador. We're depending on Saudi Arabia. We're depending on Iraq, dirty fossil fuel sources, when we need that to protect and have leverage when we negotiate with foreign countries to maybe prevent the next war. We should be providing all of our allies every bit of natural gas and oil they need so they don't depend on anybody but the United States. And that way we can influence policy, again, to maybe prevent a war or end one. I want to ask all of your listeners to go to DeniceGary-Pandol.com. Denice is spelled with a C, D-E-N-I-C-E, Gary-Pandol, P-A-N-D-O-L. Please make a contribution. I'm running to defeat Adam Schiff. Adam Schiff is going to raise your taxes, and he's going to spend more, which is going to decrease the supply, increase the demand, and it's going to just surge inflation. We need to help struggling families and individuals, the working poor and the middle class. And we've got to reduce inflation. We need to bring inflation back down to 1%, which is what it was during the Trump administration at the end of his team. And I need your help. I need resources just for yard signs, billboards, travel expenses, digital advertising, radio ads, television ads. There's all kinds of things that are needed to defeat the Democrats. And I hope that people will support me. And look at my website and read my 2 position papers up on fossil fuels and water.
Well, thank you so much. This is Rosalyn Kahn from the Rosalyn Kahn Show from KGNT, and I'm so excited to have the opportunity to hear what you have to say. You can follow me on all social media, always out there uncovering the stories that people need to hear about. It's truly been a pleasure and honor.
Thank you,
Rosalyn Kahn on all social media. I'll say thank you very much, and we'll be in touch real soon. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rosalyn. Have a blessed day.
You too.
Thank you.